Have you been stopped by the police? What should you do if you get pulled over by the police? Hi, I'm Jeff Hampton with the Hampton Law Firm. Today we're going to go over in our video series what exactly you should do, not if, but when a police officer pulls you over. And by the way, if you wait around till the end of this video, I'll also give you a free ebook, What to Do If You Have Been Charged with a Crime in Texas. Okay, now, look, it's not uncommon for someone to be pulled over by a police officer. Each and every one of us, most likely, if you've been driving for any significant period of time, you've been pulled over by a police officer. So some of the most common reasons that we're all fully aware of is speeding, maybe not fully stopping at that stop sign, or maybe occasionally getting a little impatient and running the red light. But it's important to remember that just because you're stopped by the police, even if you've done something wrong, it doesn't mean that your constitutional rights have been forfeited just because the police pull you over. So the police still have very strict rules and procedures provided by our laws that they are required to follow. If they violate these rules or procedures, it can completely change the outcome if you had been charged with a criminal case as a result of that stop. So what we're going to do is we're going to examine, number one, we're going to look at some of the rights that you have when stopped by the police. We'll look at some common justifications law enforcement use to stop you, and what you should do when you find yourself in that particular situation. This is a little bit of A to Z look at what to do and understanding if the police pull you over, what can they do, and what should you do to put yourself in the best spot to protect yourself. Okay, so first of all, one of the first things that we look at is what are some of the common reasons that police officers pull us over if we're driving down the road? Well, technically, in order for a police officer to make a traffic stop, they have to have reasonable suspicion that some type of criminal activity is taking place. Okay, now how do they get this? And this is laid out under the Fourth Amendment to our United States Constitution. And one of the things they're looking for is a traffic violation. Okay, so police officers can't just pull you over for no reason. They can't just have a hunch. They're not supposed to, right? They're not supposed to pull you over just because they don't like something about you. Now, I do remember when I was first driving, I had a Mustang when I was a kid. And I do remember a certain police officer in the town I was growing up did pull me over for no reason other than to let me know he was in charge. But legally, he wasn't supposed to. The officer's not supposed to just pull someone over for no specific reason. So they have to be able to articulate reasonable suspicion based upon actions that an officer directly observes. For example, I gave you a moment ago. Let's say you're speeding. Let's say they run a radar and they see that someone's speeding. Let's say that maybe someone's swerving between lanes, or maybe an expired registration sticker, maybe not wearing a seatbelt, maybe a missing license plate, or the one that I love to see officers do all the time is they'll pull someone over because they don't have a license plate on the front and the back of the vehicle. What if there is the possibility of they see a weapon, or they think someone's acting in an irrational manner in some ways that might make them think someone's intoxicated? So one of the things we see here, obviously it's not an exhaustive list, but they are looking for traffic violations as a reason to pull you over. So now here's the real question. What if you feel that you have been pulled over for no reason? Well, this may be an illegal traffic stop. But be careful, just because you didn't do anything wrong doesn't mean the police can't still do something to you if you don't respond the right way when they pull you over. So let's get into what to do if you are stopped by the police in Texas. Number one, the most important thing to remember is that if you're pulled over, do not argue with the police officer. No matter what you do not argue with the police officer. Do the very best that you can to politely cooperate with this officer. Now, you have rights that you should exercise, but I want to warn you, just a basic kind of etiquette with dealing with a police officer, if you start kind of raising your tension level and your combativeness and how you feel like you're being wrongfully treated, then what ends up happening is that officer is very likely going to get you out of that vehicle and start trying to find any reason he can to put you under arrest. I've actually represented clients who I found did nothing wrong, but because of the way that they responded to the police at the scene, they end up picking up a resisting arrest charge. Okay, so you don't want that situation. Now remember, generally you do have the right to remain silent. You do not have to cooperate with the police. There are certain things that you've got to be careful about. If the police officer starts asking you all types of questions, there's nothing that you have to answer that could potentially incriminate yourself. And so the officer is looking for everything that he can after he pulls you over to establish probable cause to arrest you, okay? So what should you do? Well, let me give you just a few things to consider. As soon as you see the police lights flashing in your rear view mirror, you want to begin to slow down, signal that you're going to pull over, try to find a well-lit area as best as you can, particularly if there's witnesses nearby. Pull into that area and then park under as best you can, park under a street light. So if you are on a highway or if there's traffic, you need to pull over and try to do everything that you can to avoid traffic. And once you've come to a complete stop, first thing you should do is roll down your window. And what I recommend that you do, if it's nighttime, turn on the interior lights of your vehicle. And after these things are done, keep your hands on the steering wheel, okay? And the reason why is you have no idea what kind of police officer you're dealing with, all right? One of the things these police officers are looking for is what they call furtive movements, which is basically them thinking you're trying to hide something, or them thinking that you might have a weapon or something else in your possession. That can escalate the situation very quickly if you move at a quick pace. So, by the way, this will also show this police officer, it'll demonstrate to him that you're willing to cooperate and that he has nothing to be concerned about. So when interacting with the officer, of course, I know all this is kind of somewhat common sense, but just be aware of this, especially if you've done nothing wrong. Be cooperative, to the extent of answering his questions, being courteous, showing your license, your registration, your proof of insurance. These are things that the police officer has a right to ask you for. And remember that you do not have to give the police officer a right to search your vehicle, okay? Now, what I mean by that is officers will sometimes do this. Hey, what are you doing? And I've had them do it to me. How are you doing tonight? Out here driving around. Do you mind if you step out of the vehicle? Can I search your car? And my response is, listen, no offense, officer, but there's nothing for you to look for in my vehicle. And I kind of, I'm trying to get home, trying to get back to my wife and kids. And no, I don't feel comfortable with a search today. Okay. You can be very polite. You can be very kind about it, but the officer is looking to get consent. If you give him consent, get ready. You're looking at another 30 minutes or more that this officer is going to be looking through your vehicle and trying to find anything and everything he can to create some type of case. That's what the officers are trained to do. Now, I'm going to share a personal experience with you. When I was first 16 years of age and I learned my lesson the hard way about this issue, I got pulled over in Forest Hill, Texas, okay? And I got pulled over and I was in my old car, brand new. It was like a 1979 Cutlass. It was not brand new. It was terrible. It was a terrible vehicle. But I got pulled over and I didn't know what to do. I never had a conversation about this before, so I got pulled over and I thought, I didn't do anything wrong. So guess what I did? I got out of the car. Well, that was the worst thing I could have done. This Forest Hill police officer drew down on me, pulled out his weapon, literally pointed it at my head and told me to get on the ground, and he put his knee in my back. And so I never did that again, okay? Point is, stay in the vehicle and follow these procedures to avoid this, to avoid happening for you to go through what happened to me, all right? So now if the police officer does begin to search your car, now let's say, what if he searches your car anyway? What if he doesn't have a right to search, but he starts doing it? Well, understand, don't resist the arrest. Don't do anything to escalate the situation. Only answer basic questions such as your name, your address, and your birth date. You are required to answer those basic questions. But otherwise, if he's going to ask you additional questions, whatever you do, you can choose to remain silent, but don't give false information. If you give false information, he will arrest you for failure to ID, and you will end up in a jail cell based upon a simple, innocent traffic stop, okay? So the most important thing that you do is do not resist arrest. Let's say he does arrest you and you feel like you've done nothing wrong. You say, I can't believe I'm going through this. Whatever you do, do not resist arrest. The opportunity to contest an illegal stop is when you have an experienced criminal defense attorney that stands with you in a courtroom to have those charges thrown out. But if you do resist arrest, you could end up having the original charge thrown out, but still facing the resisting arrest charge, okay? So just remember this, stay silent. Remember, you have a right to remain silent other than giving him your basic information about who you are. And understand that just because you're pulled over does not mean the police can do whatever they want. However, if they do whatever they want, you need to make sure and do everything you can not to make the situation worse, okay? Now, that's just a little bit of an overview of what to expect if you were to ever get pulled over. Maybe you had a situation like this and you ended up subsequently being charged with a crime in the North Texas area. If that's you, I want to encourage you to give our office a call. We offer a free consultation as well as a free case analysis where we would be happy to answer all of your questions. And don't hesitate to contact the Hampton Law Firm at 817-877-5200. By the way, I promised you if you waited around to the end of this video, I would give you a free ebook, What to Do If You Have Been Charged with a Crime in Texas. Click the link below and I'll be happy to send it over to you. Thanks again for joining us today on our YouTube channel. Look forward to seeing you on our next video series.